It's always been like that from the beginning. So now what we see is that now God, it says the purpose of God according to the election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. So the election is according to God. The election is according to God and who he calls, not of works. And this is how it's always been. So now he says this, verse 12. Romans 9, verse 12. It was said of her, the elder should serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, verse 13, but Esau have I hated. Now this, in this Hebrew economy, this didn't mean that, I love you, so I'm going to show you favoritism, because obviously they didn't do good or evil yet, according to what we just read. And it's not because I hate you, therefore I'm not going to choose you. But this means, so in their terminology, it just meant more so than I chose you over you. Meaning you may have one extra ticket to a graduation or something, and you gave it to this best friend rather than this best friend. Not that you love one more than the other, but it's just saying that you just chose one over the other. And in their terms, that would say, well, you love your one friend that you gave it, and you hate your other friend that you didn't give it to. But it doesn't mean that you love and hate in that sense. It just means that you chose one over the other, according to God's election, according to his purpose that he had before the foundations of the world. Now, God is just working that thing out. So it says, what shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So then, it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy. I remember when we were doing a Sabbath school with the younger people, and I asked them, why are you a Seventh-day Adventist? And you got, because of this, because my parents, or all these other reasons I want to be baptized, and our kids, sometimes they was off the mark, but but the bottom line is we are Seventh-day Adventists because of God's mercy and compassion. That's why you are Adventists. God chose you. And we got to get a hold of that. And he chose you before the foundation of the world. It ain't had nothing to do with you. That's why if you go back and look at Father Miller, God just fell on the brother and started giving him understanding. Man, we missing the mark. We got to understand, man, about God's mercy and his compassion. He has always designed that this happens like this. He already predestined that we shall be conformed to the image of his son. Before the foundation of the world, he already solidified what we got to look like. He already did it before the world even began. Said, for the scripture says unto Pharaoh, even for the same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. Therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will harden. Let's skip down to verse 22. What if God, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy, which he had afore prepared unto glory. Even us, whom he had called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles. And he says in Hosea, I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which are not my beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living God. Now look what Hosea is saying. Now this is an Old Testament prophet. They was preaching the gospel all along. It's the same gospel that you hear right now today. They was always preaching the gospel. It never changed. And it couldn't change because God already prefigured what it was going to be before the foundation of the world. So now you got Hosea saying that God is going to take a people who wasn't his people and they will be called his people. But watch what he says to Israel. Isaiah also cried concerning Israel. So now you got two groups. Can I erase this? So now you got two groups. I'll try to do that. So now you got two groups of people. I think that might be too weird, actually. Yeah, weird. Okay. And God is about to teach us the truth. All right, there we go. And God is about to teach us the truth. So now we have two groups of people. We got one is the Gentiles. Then you got another one, which is Israel. So now you got two groups of people that he's talking about. To the one group, he said, man, even though they ain't called my people right now, they're going to be called my people. But watch what he say to Israel. Isaiah also cried concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. For he will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because the short work will the Lord make upon the earth. So now they're teaching us the truth. You got two lines of people. You got a people that God had ordained to know his will and all this and all these things, and the Gentiles didn't know. They didn't have the light. But God said, man, they're going to be called my people one day. But to his people, he said, man, I'm only going to be able to save a remnant of y'all. I'm only going to be able to save a remnant, brother. That's what he's saying to God's people. So God, the same God, is telling hard-headed Israel, man, I'm going to bring up a group of people that ain't called my people right now. But what I'm saying to you is, y'all so hard-headed, I'm only going to be able to save a remnant of y'all. Man, we're not even understanding what God is trying to say there. We think it's a joke. That's why Paul is saying, man, everybody that's in Israel ain't Israel. We think it's a joke, bro. We think because we got the covenants and we understand this, that we all good. But what he's trying to say is, no, that ain't true. Only those who are the children of promise. Everybody that's an Adventist ain't a Seventh-day Adventist. Man, this thing is serious. Man, we can keep playing if we want to. We're going to be just like the Israel. We think just because we got the name and that we all good. So everybody that got this name ain't really an Adventist. Only those who are the children of promise. And he preached this in the Old Testament. This ain't Paul. Paul is quoting that they've been preaching this from the beginning. And we're going to go through more texts. This ain't nothing new. And then Isaiah again said, except the Lord of Sabbath have left us a seed, we have been as Sodom and has been like unto Gomorrah. So he's saying, except God. Who left a seed, brother? God left himself a seed. And he said, if God didn't leave himself a seed, man, we would be destroyed just like Sodom and Gomorrah. That's why at the beginning of chapter 9, Paul is saying, man, this hurt my heart, man. Because he understanding that, man, they are misunderstanding and think that they are saved. John the Baptist said it this way, begin not to say within yourself that I'm the seed of Abraham. God is able of these stones to raise up children to Abraham. Therefore, the axe is lied to the root of the tree. Every tree, therefore, with bringing forth not good fruit is hewed down and cast into the fire. Man, this is serious, brother. And what God is trying to say, he has always kept a lineage of children of promise. So then it says this, verse 30. Verse 30 says this. What shall we say then? That the Gentiles, which follow not after righteousness, have obtained to righteousness, even the righteousness which is of faith. Okay, so now we learn something else about the Gentiles. He said they didn't even follow righteousness, but have attained it. So the Gentiles didn't follow after it, but they obtained it. But look what he said to Israel, verse 31. But Israel, which follow after the law of righteousness, have not attained to the law of righteousness. Why? Because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the law, for they stumble at the stumbling stone. Now this is key. Let me write remnant first. They sought it by works. Now, he has a key statement, though. He said because they stumbled at the stumbling. Now, let's just go to chapter 10 real quick, just so we can see who that is. It said, whosoever believe on him shall not be ashamed. Chapter 10, verse 11 says, speaking of Christ, for the scripture says, whosoever believe on him shall not be ashamed. So what happened to Israel? They stumbled over Christ. So they stumbled over at the stone, brother. They stumbled over Christ. So now the Gentiles, who were not called God's people, they believed by faith, therefore they obtained the righteousness. But Israel, who was God's people, first of all, God couldn't save all of them because all of them didn't believe. So only those who believe, then what God called the remnant, we're going to get to that later. But as a whole, God is saying, man, they tried to sort it by work and they stumbled over Jesus Christ. Are we stumbling over Christ? We better be careful. And we got to understand that this thing is by a promise. Otherwise, we're going to stumble just like Israel. This thing is by a promise, brother. According to God's purpose, the election, the children of promise. Chapter 10. Brethren, my heart desire and prayer to God of Israel is that ye might be saved. For I bear them record that they have zeal of God, but are according to knowledge. For they being ignorant of God's righteousness, and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God. So we see that Israel were ignorant of God's righteousness, right? So they were ignorant. Of whose righteousness? God's righteousness. Turn with me to Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3. Verse 21 and 22 says this. But now the righteousness of God without the law is manifest, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, even the righteousness of God, which is by faith of Jesus Christ, to all and upon all that believe, for there is no difference. So what is the righteousness of God? Faith in Jesus Christ. The righteousness of God is faith in Jesus Christ, or by faith of Jesus Christ. So we see that they were ignorant of righteousness by the faith of Jesus. Why? Because they stumbled over the stumbling stone, which was faith in Jesus. To the Greek, it was foolishness, but to the Jews, it was a stumbling block. The faith. So the Jews were ignorant of the faith of Jesus, but they knew all the other stuff. And this is what he opened with. So they were ignorant. Let's go back to chapter 10. Because Paul is building a case. And we're building a case into chapter 11. He said, for